יסקדל ויסקדש מרבו, ביולמוד יברח יוסף, וימליך מלכוסי.
Justice for Hannah,
וחייכון
an original
ויוניכון
screenplay
וחיל בייס
by Clement
ישראל.
Ofoedu,
הגליו is
narrated by
מלכי
Tony Honigberg.
Amen.
A hand places a steaming cup from a flask onto a dashboard. The view, through the windscreen, is an open expanse looking onto a town. The car is an aged Ford Mondeo. The hand takes the cup, bringing it gingerly to the lips of an old man in a raincoat. Abraham Lutz, Jewish, 60s, face worn, bespectacled, and weathered. He pauses, then sips the cup gently, stops, and lowers it to his lap. He is still for a short time, contemplative, then sighs, placing the cup onto the dashboard again. Abraham fusses with his seat, then reaching into his inner coat pocket, he pulls out a brown envelope, pauses, and runs his fingers across its surface. The dashboard clock advances a digit. He opens the envelope slowly, pulls out a set of upside-down, black and white dated photographs. Reversing their orientation, he flips through the photographs singularly until an image of a woman is seen. A sharp intake of breath, and his hands quickly move to his mouth, stopping a cry. Eyes close as his head shakes from an inert, restrained sobbing. Fingers run tenderly over the image, lingering on the woman's face, and again a sob. Removing his spectacles, hands shaking, he wipes escaping tears, sniffs, and stills himself with difficulty, regaining composure. Again, fingers flip through the photographs, coming to rest on an image of a child no more than 2 to 3 years in age. This time, his sob is uncontrollable. A solitary body arching in sorrow and grief. A few moments pass, then his hands wipe his face and sniffling nose. His eyes stare at the child's image. His voice is soft, accent, not loss. Hannah, oh Hannah. From his lips a small loving smile emerges. Abraham reaches out, slowly taking the cup and sipping. This time his sip is slow, longer. Abraham resumes flipping through the photos, resting as an image of a group of people come to view. 2 young men, a woman, on a lawn, champagne glasses in hand, on a perfect sunny day. His face becomes sour, his lips twist, then into simmering anger. Eyeing the photograph with an intent focus, a finger moves to the smiling man whose hands rest on the shoulders of another, himself, a younger Abraham, in his 20s. Strauss is the taller of the two, slim, blonde, fair, German, well-built. My dear old friend. A dear old friend. His face is mocking, lips curling. Strauss, I trusted you. You were supposed to be a friend. His fingers tap the face of the image, now with some hatred. Then his face is screwed up in pain. Why? The picture is lowered. His face turns away, his hand rubbing his brow as if an intense migraine has suddenly visited. Why? He tilts his head to one side, remembering something. His motion is as if a screw is slowly turning in his side, forcing him to confront his pain. You thought we would not find out, but you were careless. His eyebrows are a frown. People in our village found your prints by her body. Unusual shoes, David, our cobbler said. Fine leather from Austria. He only used the finest, he said. He distinctly knew he had worked on them the week before. A brief pause. He had to resole the left one with his last batch. It was partially damaged, blemished. He remembers it because it upset him so that his repair was not perfect. David takes pride in his job, you see. He stops, A finger then rises up in the air, gesturing defiance. You broke her heart. Do you know that? You broke my wife's heart. He looks at the photo again and shakes his head in disagreement. You took from me the only good thing I had, the only ones I loved. His voice rises and he rocks back and forth, quickly venting his pain. Why? My wife! My daughter! You! His anger is real, intense, pressing. People like you never understand the damage you do. He pauses for a moment, then continues. You were not there. You were not there. A hand points into a non-specific spot in empty space. When I had to put her to bed on the medication that night, and every other night since that day. He pauses, then begins again. She would ask, Abraham, where is she? Where is my Hannah? She needs her dinner. I should get her clothes ready for tomorrow. His hand rubs his forehead in turmoil. I would put my hands to her lips. Be still, my darling. No need. There is no need. The doctor said you need your rest. Please, please. I had to smile, even as my heart was breaking. He takes a deep breath. I had to lie to her. Lie to my wife. I had never lied to my wife before. We shared everything. I said she was away. Was visiting my mother. Spending some time with her to give you away. He chokes back emotion and softly speaks. A lie. A lie. Have you ever told someone a lie, and you knew they also understood it was a lie? Yet it was easier to accept than the truth. He's silent for a moment. She took her life, you know. She could not cope with what you did. Slowly he looks up and out of the windscreen, his gaze fixated at nothingness. She could not live with the vile things you did to our daughter. He huffs, eyes closed for a brief moment. You know, it was she who found her body. A mother, to find her child like that. He shakes his head in disbelief, then inhales sharply. She seemed to take it well after a while. I thought she had come to terms and started to adjust. But I was stupid. I was wrong. Wrong. How does a mother come to terms with such a loss? He takes another sip from the cup, swallows slowly, then resumes. The car is still. Around it greenery, trees in solitude, the occasional bird sound, and nondescript animal movement in bushes. Nature and time flits by. Abraham's face is wet from tears, hastily wiped away by shaking hands. His nose is slightly reddened. That morning I left her for work, as I always do. But she seemed okay. He nods his head in self-agreement. She smiled and kissed me. I mistook it for her soul returning. She was coming back to life. To this well, to me. Last kiss. Abraham pauses. His eyes look out of the windscreen to a distant spot onto the valley of houses. I was late back that night, you know. He now stares at the cup. Working in the office under that regime, trying to get papers for the both of us to leave the country. He stares into the distance through the windscreen again. I thought if we leave, set up a new life, then things may improve. Such hatred was building in the town. Your friends one day, your enemies the next. Eat with you, drink with you, then despise you, they do. But then you knew that. You and your kind. He's silent for a short while. When I arrived home that night, it was dark. I should have known. She had never been able to sleep with the lights off since that day. She was. He stopped suddenly. His head looks to the corner of the car roof, then to the picture of his once friend. You know, the strange thing about a dead body, it's the stillness, the unnatural stillness. You notice that at first. Then fear strikes you, and you realize that it is an empty shell, void of life, nothing more. A shaking, a sob, and a sharp inhale. She was hanging by the side of the bed. She had tied a scarf around her neck. I don't know why she chose to hang herself. He lowers his voice. Why not medication? Why so violent an end? Do you know the answer to that? Huh, Stars? He stops his speech. Now his eyes are focusing ghostly into nothing. A few seconds, and he puts the photos and the brown envelope into his coat pocket. No, I guess you do not. He rubs his temple intently. I guess you do not. Abraham rolls down his window, takes the cup, and throws the beverage out. The fluid falls onto the asphalt, making a random pattern. Steam vapor rises slowly from the ground where the drink has landed. Abraham replaces the cup onto the flask cylinder, then puts the flask into a plastic bag, rolls it, and leaves it on the passenger seat. You always found it difficult to own up your actions, Strauss. Always. Much easier to hide out of view and deny all things. So you enlisted in the party. You joined their sick, evil organization. A morally corrupt body of persecution. He exhales as one given to resignation. How would anyone believe me? A Jew in the midst of such fascism. My voice was not heard, not even a syllable of my words. Yes, I fled. I fled to save my life. To this end I live. Yet it is to my shame that I did not wrap my hands around your neck till you cease to breathe. He makes a gripping shape with his hand, a throttling motion, his breath pent up within. Well, it was in the past. They say that time is a great healer, yet those who say that have never lost a child in such a way, then lost their life. His head twists, eyes close, and mouth taut, as if swallowing a bitter drink. Man can only stand so much pain, but it will be shortly over. I will see my family again. Abraham pauses, exhales, then opens the driver's door. Stepping out, he slowly turns and opens the rear car door. Within is a petrol can, stains of petrol smeared over its sides. He reaches for the can, pulling it out slowly. Then opening with a motion, he begins to unscrew the can. I trailed you all over the world after the war. I could not believe you were dead. He stops. Then, no, I hoped you were not dead, that you were alive and well, so I could kill you myself. Oh, I know it's not the thing to do. Forgive, they said. But how could I? You, of all people. I knew you always would find an easy way out of direct violence and the war. Some desk job away from the slaughter. That always was you. He walks around the car and starts throwing petrol over its body. Washes of petrol roll over the surface, running and forming puddles on the ground. But I need to put the past to rest now. Yes, to rest. I need to join them, join my family. He stops, hunches over, as if stomach cramp has occurred, and shakes with grief. His eyes are tearful. He recovers, wiping away the tears. I promised one thing to my wife. I promised her one thing. He walks slowly to the back of the car. After briefly surveying the expanse of land that surrounds the vehicle, he slowly opens the boot. The lid lifts and light enters. A slightly older man is inside, confused, disorientated, bound and gagged with gaffer tape. His forehead is blooded, black and blue with bruises, and he is straining to focus. After a few moments, his focus returns and a solid Abraham is staring at him. The old man is Strauss, his eyes full of fear. There you are, my friend. We are going on a trip together, you and I. Abraham slams the lid shut. Immediately there is a muffled protesting from within of a man in panic. No, my friend. He pats the lid gently and smiles as if he was a used car salesman showing his trust in a vehicle, then takes a deep intake of fresh air. You are not leaving so soon. Allow me this one pleasure. He walks slowly with some fragility back around the car to the driver's door and attempts to re-enter the car. Oh, I almost forgot. Where are my manners? He takes out the photographs with the brown envelope. He writes something quickly on it. Then he slowly walks away from the car and places the envelope and pictures on the ground, weighting it with the rock. With a little hesitation, he returns to the car. A smile emerges from his lips. There is still a noise of protest from the rear of the car. Patience, my dear friend. I am eager to see them also. He chuckles lightly. You do not need to worry about death. I have been there for many years. You made sure that the day you took her from us. You should relax. We are quite alone. No one can hear your pleas and lies. Not this time. Abraham calmly enters the car from the open driver's side and sits. He slams the door shut with a small effort. Reaching within his coat pocket, he pulls out a smoker's pipe and bites onto it. The banging in the boot intensifies. Abraham smiles, producing a matchbox. He takes out a match. He strikes it and lights his pipe and takes a few short sucks to kindle it. He then calmly puts the lit match out of the open car window. The match tumbles slowly and rolls onto the ground. Screams and sounds of an intense fire is heard. The scene is quiet. A short distance from the car is a brown envelope lying on the ground. Some writing on it reads simply, Strauss, Nazi child rapist, murderer, has now paid his debt to humanity. Our beloved Hannah can rest in peace. Poking out also a picture of a man in Nazi regalia. You have been listening to Justice for Hannah, an original screenplay by Clemento Foedo, narrated by Tony Honigberg.